Different, don't get bad. High difference of my winning. Show do good, not that swing. Yeah, I got nice vision. It doesn't make sense to me, dude.
Sean here, and there are potential stumbling blocks to getting this goblin some kind of help, because there are two types of adult care that you can petition the state for. One is guardianship, and the other is adult protective services. We obviously, oh, for God's sake, I hope no one in this community would ever take on guardianship of this goblin. But I do know adult protective services, I believe they were called once before, but this is, he's gone. I was just watching Steve from Machete Squad. I was listening to this goblin rage and tell us that he will be fighting us forever and ever until he is dead in the ground. All of these videos recently that he's put out have been a red flag. When you prove that his behavior is concerning, he's violent, he's vulgar, he has no problem flashing himself to potentially thousands, maybe 10,000 people, probably eventually 100,000 people might see that. I'm going to be real here. I can picture this little goblin in some kind of group home, somebody making him mad, somebody finds out about his past, they confront him, he rages out, and he just starts flashing people. 100% guarantee that will happen. And when you approach this adult protective services, there has to be some educated guesses. They have a different term for it, but there have to be some educated guesses, patterns, or prediction of patterns of behavior. Apologies, brain is not functioning 100% yet. And you sort of have to be able to prove those. If this went in front of a judge, you'd have to be able to show a judge proof. Look, the videos he's been putting out lately, as I said before, all of them have been combative. They've all been confirmation that he's no longer living in the real world and he's delusional, and the delusions have taken over. The proclamations that he's uncancelable and untouchable and that he's God. And I know I mentioned some of this. I just sound like and I know he's God, but God, I just sound like a minister. But that's not the point. The point is, he has repeatedly stated that he knows what's wrong and what's right. He has also stated that the solutions, the legit solutions to his problems, and I'm just going to use one, get off the internet, they don't suffice for him. He doesn't care about them. He's just going to let them go. So he's also demonstrated that he refuses to listen to reason and to do what's necessary. Steve from Machete Squad made a good point that he is fairly certain that Sally would probably, if she had to choose, let him be homeless so that she wouldn't be, or they would be homeless together. I truly believe they don't know what's coming. They don't see it. That is a huge misstep on Sally's part. She is not preparing him. She has not prepared him. As far as I know, there are no state courses. One of the biggest things for adult protective services, oh my God, finances. Because this world runs on money. And he doesn't understand anything about money. I know I've said it before, but this is actually the state of Ohio. And if Sally is using him to keep him in that environment, if they're getting some kind of support, I sound like DSP, support if you can. If they are getting some kind of support, that's exploitation, neglect. Look at his fucking room. It's disgusting. So all of this put into a package, it has to be logical. It has to be easy to follow, more importantly, because if you can take somebody from A to B to C to D without too much effort, I think your point gets across better if you have video evidence, which we have plenty in the community. His medical care, one look at his mouth and you can tell, look, they have no insurance whatsoever. They don't have access to any kind of care. If Cyraxx broke his arm, he would not be going to the hospital. He would not be going to the doctor. Maybe, just maybe, if he wouldn't shut up. Well, you know what, Ed, take him to the hospital. Hey, give him some perks. Neglect, signs of neglect are all there. So this medical care, neglect, abuse, Ed popped him in the mouth. Ed hit him in the mouth. If that is true, right there, instead of disciplining your little goblin, figuring out a way around it, you punched him in the effing mouth. Now, I don't know if she has guardianship. Now, let me back up. I would like to see, and I know we can't, if she officially adopted this goblin, I would like to see if it was a guardianship adoption, if it was a parental adoption, because if it's a guardianship, it's completely different, and there are lawyers probably in this community that can break this whole thing down. But I do know that if it's a guardianship, it's different. She's a steward or a guardian, whatever state you live in. I am shocked at this community. I don't know. No, Ohio doesn't have this, where you can... if a boy says, I like a girl's doll, and the school is convinced that they want to be the opposite sex, the state can come in and steal your child away. And they have hundreds of times. And I'm shocked that somebody didn't say, well, he wants to transition. Ohio doesn't have that law. So you can't just come in and snatch this little goblin out of the attic. You can't pull it out of its lair. So abuse... I'm sure he's gotten popped by Ed, maybe thrown around a little bit. I don't know for sure about that. We can speculate, though, can't we? Neglect. Look at his effing health. Eating nothing but Hot Pockets. If that's all they can afford, that's fine. That's life. Right after I got divorced, I was eating like peanut butter crackers all the time, making sure that my kids had food. I had like $25 for a month. For 1 month, I had $25 for 2 weeks for that month. And then like $50. Oh, it's disaster, man. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But I don't know what kind of money they have. Then what they'll do, when we talk about the neglect, they will look at how much money they're bringing in, how much is spent on care. This is no shit, man. It's all funny. F around and find out. It's all fun and games until you have to account for what you done, Sally and Ed. How much money they're bringing in. Could they afford the care that he needs? Could they afford the food, the nutrition that he needs? Can they afford an exterminator or the proper chemicals to fumigate his freaking attic room? If you have the money to take care of that problem and you don't want to take care of that problem, that's a problem. I'm going off by what Ohio says. Just inserting my opinion in there because, quite honestly, I'm not the only one. There are others who have made Ohio aware of this little freaking goblin. When he left the internet for a little bit, and then he came back, and now he's back to making the same, you don't want me to make money. I got the FBI in my pocket. I got the police. You've heard it all. This repetition, this delusion, psychosis that is going on with him, we don't have to prove it anymore. The record is out there. And any sane counselor or evaluator is going to look at those videos over, 7 years? 7 years, Marty? But 7 years looking at each of those videos and hearing the same words over and over. He hasn't moved on, which means, and this is important, he hasn't received proper care. If I try to help you and nothing works. Okay, wrestling. If you like wrestling, Jim Ross, I believe it was Jim, was assigned to Ahmed Johnson. And if you know who Ahmed Johnson is, freaking nature, incredible athlete, just looked like a complete and total badass. I remember thinking, when he first came out in the Attitude Era, I don't want to ever mess with him. But his promos, it sounded like a dog barking because he had a real deep voice and a thick tongue. Jim Cornette also was assigned. Long story short, they worked with him and worked with him and worked with him. And they had to figure out, he's not getting any better. Is it Jim's help? Or is it Ahmed just not? It turns out nobody could help him. And Ahmed just didn't really care. He just wanted to go out there and kill people. This is a prime example of, is it the proper technique, care, help, or is it the unwillingness of the goblin? Ahmed, if you're listening, shout out to Ahmed Johnson. Sorry, Ahmed, if you're listening, I did not just call you a goblin. We're talking about Cyraxx. Please don't come choke me. So, just FYI, in Ohio, what will most likely happen is if it doesn't work, they try someone else. And we've speculated on whether a woman would be the best or not. Because, see, Lauren Armstrong, he had a woman, and it was a nightmare. He played up the sympathy card. Oh, how shucky, I'm a nice guy. Look at me. They never saw the real Lauren. Give Cyraxx an old woman, and he's crying. I've given this some thought. I have. I can't figure out what kind of person it would take to get through to him. I just can't. You'd have to file, to get all this started, you file with the probate court in the county. That's how this all starts. But once it's in motion, that's when the whole guardian and stewardship, whatever, because during this time it's going to be tumultuous. Cyraxx is going to be confused and angry and, Mom, tell me what's going on. He's going to be calling the courts asking, can I please talk to somebody? I need to find out what's going on. If there are breakdowns in this community, if somebody does a breakdown of this whole process, Cyraxx freaking out, everything else, it's going to be really, really interesting because he's only going to hear 10% of what they're saying. People make shit. I'll probably make a prediction video about length and time and process because, Chance, I know you listen to my videos. This is unavoidable, dude. It's unavoidable. There's too much video evidence. You going after kids, whether you want to admit it or not. There's video evidence of everything you say that happened not being true. You were busted. It was legit. That is a major problem. You flashed yourself, Chancey Poo, multiple times. You threatened people. You threatened their families in graphic ways. You're a rage monster. You've yelled at your grandmother. You punched the wall when Heather was on there. There's all the reports of what you've done behind the scenes. So a filing with probate court with the strength called strength of evidence, linear evidence, Chance, I really don't care what they call it. But the bottom line is it's unavoidable, my guy. All right, now we get in the meat of it. There have to be a medical evaluation. Man, Adult Protective Services is usually for senior citizens. But there are cases like the Goblin. You'd have to get a medical eval. Can you imagine having to check this worm-infested, rotten tooth, body odor, scab head, swollen foot with scaly infections on it? Goblin. Can you imagine having to check him out? And you'd have to handle each problem at a time. And I don't know how they weigh this, but is this a problem they didn't know about? Is this a problem they can handle? Can they even afford the care? What do we do to get this goblin back to some kind of standard of health? Then the investigation starts. The home visits, as I've talked about before. I have no idea what really happens during these investigation times. I don't know what questions are asked. There is no guideline, at least that I found, that's going to tell you. I mean, why would you do that anyway? Because if the scab lab here, the goblin, his family finds out, they'll have answer to all those questions. And what would happen to Sally? What if he is a meal ticket? What if they do have him somehow listed as she's a guardian? If a guardian fails, say it's a guardianship and it's not parental. If a guardian fails, it's not the same as a parent. It'd be like a godfather, godson. My godson's name is Derek. And if anything ever happened and I was asked to take over, hell yeah. I have two, my uncle and aunt. If I died, I was going to go to them. My dad was... Anyway, it was bad. He had major medical issues. But how do you differentiate? I know I'm rambling a little bit, but damn it, this needs to happen soon. You'll hear the word incapacitated. If you start looking for this, you hear the word incapacitated. He's not incapacitated. And incapacitated applies to severely disabled children who are being neglected, or adults or senior citizens and things like that. I don't know what they have listed as his disability, but if it is a legitimate disability, they take that into consideration as well. If you have a mentally disabled and narcissistic psychopath, delusional, scab lab goblin, but if you have a mentally disabled goblin and nothing is being done, no kind of occupational therapy in general, nothing is going on, and he is declining and spiraling, and you can watch it on YouTube. They also have something called other necessities, other necessary assistance, which is kind of like a general blanket term. And that's where they can kind of slide in there. If they're having issues, I think, with getting it the other way, they slide in there with this, and they can use it as the cherry on top to try to push it over the line so that the care can be given. I don't know if Adult Protective Services is the actual blanket term, blanket name. There's another division. You know how the government is. You got Homeland Security, and then you got the National Associate, whatever. You know how it is. They got like a tree. I don't know what the tree is. I do know that Cyraxx's family tree does not fork. Given his familial history, his upbringing, his environment, his deteriorating health, his mental state, his neglect, Sally has not tried to help him at all. I know this is kind of a duplicate video. This is a more informed video. Let's just say that. And also, if someone first files, you can't ask too many questions. You kind of just have to submit it. And if they have any follow-up questions, they contact you. I do not think that they will yank this goblin out unless there are some seriously smart people that can duplicate someone else's petition to the point where they have to take notice, or the right person sees the paperwork. And I know Chance would hate this. I know he would. But again, I said it before, as a human being, this goblin has gone from funny to concerning. I don't know what the Akron accent is, but this has gone to concerning. It's difficult to watch somebody descend into madness and say the same things all those years. But that's what he does. Now, that's a general overview of the process. It can be quick if things are in order and well thought out and well worded, or it can be lengthy, depending on whatever it is, whoever's doing it, whatever it is their goal is. It's legitimately a court case. We don't have to worry about power of attorney because it would most likely, unless the neglect kicked in, then they'd have to put his care under the state. I don't think you can put power of attorney with someone who didn't have their best interest and let them descend into madness and deteriorate, rot from the inside out. I don't want to get into that. But that's it. That's pretty much it. And I hope this informed some people. Sorry for the rambling rage. I just get so passionate that something needs to be done. I'll see you guys in the next one.
It doesn't make sense to me, dude.
It's different. Don't get bad. High difference on my winning. Show do good outside swinging. Yeah, I got no attention. Don't my family, no my brothers.